Hey everybody, so today we're going to be breaking down Bugha, Threats, and Kraez's third place in the most recent Div Cup finals by analyzing their third place. So, the reason why I'm going to be looking at this game in particular rather than their first or their fifth kill game where they had more kills is those games were largely dominated by their use of the gold capes. In both those games they had triple gold capes. It was just them running down teams. I don't really think it's going to be very useful for us to take away from it. However, in their first game, I think we're going to see a lot about how to control space early and mid-game, and also a lot about how to clutch in that end game if you are just a duo. So, let's get right into it. The first little thing I want to show you guys is some cool little tech that kind of builds off something that Queasy was doing last season. So, this building over here, the entire bottom of it is metal. So instead of Threats going up and down this building to loot it and then farm his metal afterwards, he's going to chop out the building by farming it. This is something Queasy really pioneered in Seaport City when it was named that. And so it kills two birds with one stone. As he is farming, he is also essentially looting. And so he's able to get up to 555 almost faster than anyone else in this lobby. So we circle back. All of this loot is here now. Ignore the fact that like the walls are still here somewhere or somehow. It's just a little replay bug. But now, we are 155. First zone hasn't even started closing, so we are about as stripped as we can be. If you land Utopia, just a cool little thing for you to know. I'm going to skip forward again. We're going to go to a pretty ill-advised bloom fight out of Smiley. So, Utopia City sets up. They are going to try to look to trade with this Shining Span team. The Shining Span player does not see Kraez build up as well, so as he bloom fights Threats here, Kraez is able to peek as well, and he dies. While they are not able to get the Thirst, it's a free 200 bit of damage. Now from here, I want to talk about lane control. So, what do I mean by lane? So, do you notice how right here, all of this space is essentially free? That isn't just like happenstance, that's by design. Boxcars, as a team, essentially zones out all of these teams. Teams have to rotate around that because they're so fearful of boxcars. If you're pump powered, you can't just walk straight down because boxcars are going to hold you the entire time. A similar thing happens in Flooded. Flooded establishes a base here and here, and that denies teams from coming up from this south side. And so what you have, if you're Utopia, if you're able to establish your side too and hold these teams, hold Shining Span and hold this team to the south, you have this super crisp lane. Controlling your lanes, especially in higher quality lobbies, is the biggest thing that separates like good teams from bad teams. If a team were able to slip around and get in past Bugha, every rotate they make after this zone becomes harder. And I'm going to keep circling back to this because the space they gain control of, because they keep control of this lane, is what sets them up to do well in their duo clutch. So, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. The rest of this is just mainly them just keeping control of Utopia, juggling heals forward. So they are going to basically have Kraez be the slave of the trio and juggle their heals from this point right here inside Utopia City over to here. That way they can keep trading as they're in zone. If you are a spot that's like mid-ish map, if you can do this in a lobby where you need Surge, it is almost always the optimal strategy. If you can keep your heals for as long as possible, that is best case scenario. Because that means that the heals you're using aren't the heals from your inventory. They're just spare heals. You can still walk into the later mid and end game with better loot than the rest of the lobby. And that is half of what mid game is. So, like I said before, because of their lane, all of these teams on this side ended up just playing like in Storm, especially this Sewers team, because of this geyser right here that can send them like super high, like all the way to like here-ish. They are almost always going to be incentivized to play in Storm here. And so this lane is massive for them. They also got lucky. The Boxcar team ended up wrapping this way. Now, I can't tell you why on this zone Boxcars played it a little bit differently than normal, but they did. And so that's something to note there, which is that they got super lucky. They're not going to be getting looked at from Boxcars at all here. So I'm going to clear this. But yeah, super strong lane right now. They're going to keep juggling their heals forward. So they do a good job of recognition. They're like, hey, like, I don't hear shots up here. I don't see builds up here. Brutal decides to rotate over towards Lone Wolf, I assume, so they can trade with the island team and then try to hold Curly. But now they're able to get even more control. So they've transitioned the control of this space, which they would have had no matter what, into control of this space. They now have essentially a quarter of the map fully under their control. So now because of that, Kraez and Bugha are going to be able to go over here and look at the tags on this team to our north, while Threats is going to watch our back. So again, this is what much of mid-game around center map POIs is it's learning how the teams around you move and learning the best way you can control as much space and territory you can, because that dictates your future rotates. Look at this map. Notice how, because they controlled so much space before, in this lane, they now have so much of the map to themselves. Let's say there was still a team boxcar that was like taking up this space. They would still have all of this to themselves. And so, let's say if next zone pulls south, which hint hint it does. They can now wrap in along this right side for essentially free, because they've already conditioned all of the teams around them to be forced to wrap up in many cases. So a lot of them wrapped up in order to avoid the control of Utopia and boxcars, or they're forced to wrap down. And so because of that, because of all that space they control, there's no one in front of them if it pulls max, because they were ahead of all those teams the entire time, and all the teams behind them aren't clogging up this south side. So if the rotate demands them go south, they have a really easy rotate. Having a good early to mid game where you control as much space as you can is crucial in making the rest of your mid game easier. If you find that your mid game is really sloppy because you just are constantly running into teams, there is a very real chance you just aren't controlling enough space or the right space in your early game. So Bugha does a little bit of milking, gets absolutely fried in that bush. But again, because we have all of these extra heals that we've juggled from Utopia City, it doesn't really matter. He just wasted a 200 Chug Jug and still has 6 minis in his inventory. Oh, he's got a new 200 Chug Jug now. And like I said before, because we cleared out all of this space before, all of this space, we have the easiest rotate down to the right here. There's very few teams in front of us. And since we are so stacked, since we are so good on Surge, we want to be as far away as we can from any other team, because that's going to minimize the chance that we die in a very stupid way. While I say that, we're still going to find ourselves being keyed by a team that needs Surge and dying in a very stupid way. So again, good awareness by Kraez to see this team coming from inside zone. If he didn't make that comm, one of them probably does die to a 3-2-1 on their back. Now, this is why you always want to be as far away from teams as you can if you are stacked. Taki, Ishu, and Vert have nothing right now. They are all low white HP. None of them have whites. They are 200 below. This team needs to get in on you. And what happens when teams get in on you? They force 50-50s. So we're going to go to Threats POV. There is a bit of a misplay here in terms of their team play. Threats goes for like a solo cape by himself, essentially, that gets him to die. But even if like he didn't die here, it was still just a shambles position they were in. So he looks for this. Because he's the only one at that moment that went for that cape, he gets traded out by Taki. Kraez, though, is able to clutch up this fight pretty hard. So something that really defines Kraez's playstyle is Kraez is one of the best box fighters on our region. That is like a defining characteristic of Kraez. You can make an argument he might be the best box fighter that plays comp on Central. So, now we've lost Threats. Pretty bad, but it's still recoverable, right? We still have really good heals. We are 1,000 above, which means for the rest of the game, we are essentially good on Surge, and we have the mobility we need. We have dashes as well as we have the capes. So, this is definitely a clutchable game. So, even though Threats died, because their early to mid game was so good, because they're still so stacked on everything they need, their mobility, their heals, this is still a game that's very, very clutchable. They don't have to do much in this, like, mid to end game in order to place well this game. So we're going to wrap into the left here. Again, because of all that space we controlled before, I'm going to keep, like, saying it. Because they controlled this lane, they end up being able to convert that lane into a lane here. Controlling space. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to get made fun of by my friend Caliber for saying space so much. Controlling this space converts into this space. And so if you're a mid-map team and you are a team that's consistently playing scrims, focus, focus, focus on getting as much control of space as you can. Figure out how to do it. Study the teams that are the best at your spot and see what they do differently to get control of space. Because it's the most important aspect of mid-map. So again, look at the congestion. This congestion is strongly dictated by how Bugha and them played the early game. And so all of these teams are going to be hopping on each other, keying each other. 2 to 4 teams are going to die in this cluster here. They're going to die. But Bugha over here and Kraez, they're chilling. They're not going to die in this rotate. They're so far away. Now, the thing is, even though they're far, on this rotate, they're still going to run into the issue of, hey, even if you are far away from teams, if you're unlucky that the teams close to you are the ones that don't have Surge, you can still get keyed. But the team that needs Surge is just so poor. 125 HP, 75 HP, 80 HP. They have nothing. And so, it is going to lag here. But again, this is the fight for Surge that you'd much prefer to, like, the cluster of people around them. Because they're able to take, like, just a very easy fight here. And no one's 30 them. There's still no one around them. They still control this lane. They just took a full-on fight. A full 2v3. No one's 30 them. But if any of the teams over here were to take a fight, they're instantly getting thirded. So again, this rotate that they have super clean in was entirely decided because of their early game. I'm going to keep hounding on this. I'm going to keep going back to it. It's all because of the early game. So they try and get the kill on the last player. That trio, they need Surge. Key here, now that like a team is actually pulling up on them with Kraez and gang, they choose to use their cape and create distance before they heal. A lot of players, and I'm going to keep circling back to this, don't know when to heal. They try and pop their Chug Jug and then rotate late. But if they create the distance first and then heal, they're not healing with that team breathing down their neck. They can also look back at hold. And look at the distance that's now created between them and the team that was just on them. If they had staggered, healed, and then gone, that team is probably breathing down their neck this entire rotate. Knowing when to heal and when to rotate is a really, really important skill. So again here, so one thing to note is when you are a duo or you're a trio that is stacked and you don't need anything, getting off like the true edge is so important. Because they are off true edge, they use their mobility to get in like a little deep. Rather than being one of these teams on low ground, like all brawling it out, they're here. They're like super safe, they're tucked away, they're like nice and snug in bed, you know? Whereas all of these teams that just stopped on true edge are currently battling it out like their lives are on the line. And then when next zone pops, because they're a little bit off edge, there's no one in front of them holding them. So they get control the destiny on their own rotate. They control their own destiny. So, he's able to look ahead. No one's in front of them. Again, we're able to go instantly because there's no one like really in front of us. And now we have even more distance between us and the rest of the lobby. That's going to be the key thing of this duo clutch. We are going to try our best to stay as far away from other teams and keep ourselves spaced. Finally, on this rotate, we are going to finally utilize the dashes we've been saving. And so, notice again our positioning here. Rather than being one of these teams on this edge, like this cluster down here, like in this line here, we are much further up, we are much further away. We use our mobility to, once again, keep ourselves at a safe distance. And the only team that finds themselves near us is a duo. that is also so completely shambles, they're not even really a threat. So we do get a little bit lucky here, if I'm being honest. So Coggers goes up, then goes down, dies, and we're able to get like a free little loot pile off it. It's really not much though. It's quite literally just Siphon Mats. So it's not like a game-changing refresh, but it is a lucky refresh in the grand scheme of things. Now I'm going to focus on Bugha here, because I think Bugha does a really good job tarping. So, we pause, we drop. The second we drop, this team instantly tries to edit us. So a lot of players would probably keep trying to tarp in a straight line here. They're going to keep trying to go straight, straight, straight. And the problem if they keep staying on this layer, I should probably use a better color that contrasts the back. The problem if they stay this layer is this player above is going to keep trying to smack. He's going to keep aggroing, he's going to keep trying to smack. He sees it's 1, and then when Kraez gets there, he's going to realize it's 2. So it's going to be like, Bugha K, let's key this. So, what does Bugha do? Does he stay on this layer, or does he instantly drop? Instantly goes down 1 and creates 2 layers of separation between him and the closest team. Staggers here, waits, he's going to use his mobility again. Uses his cape. And again, we have 2 layers of separation between us and the closest team. Builds out, makes it so Kraez can just come right in. We look, we're aware when this duo tries to free us. We edit out and we pull out our wings, so that way if they keep trying to free, we can just cape out. Super, super safe. We wait. Next one pulls back. So this is like a super sketch part of the game. There is really no like safe layer here. You kind of just have to be like aware. This is something I've noticed for Doxy do a lot is whenever you're in old builds or like builds that are your own, places where teams aren't going to know for certain if you're there or not, always crouch walk. If you're crouching these like full built metal builds, everyone's on low meshes. No one's going to know if you're in here. No one's going to be able to look at this wall and go, oh, there's a player in there if you're crouch walking. They're going to have no idea. So that's something I've seen like a lot of more players like add to their repertoire, which is just using or cutting audio whenever they are in old builds in order to either get a lurk kill or just get any sort of awareness kill. So good cut there by Bugha to go backwards and then use that to go forwards. So because everyone's trying to like get up, all the congestion ends up being like here-ish around like a mid-ground layer. He cuts backwards here and then circles around, and now he's like what? Third height in a really good position. Height's not really pressuring too much, and they're not even second height, so Height's not going to really focus on it. Again, we cut audio, we lurk back. We're constantly cutting audio. We don't want the teams around us to recognize we're a duo. That is worst case scenario. We're in a good lobby. If teams realize, hey, there's a duo in this wood, they are getting keyed. They are getting immediately keyed. They are not living. Able to grab the mats. Uses the bird in order to cut from the left side to the right side. Because of how that last zone played, the right side here is super, super open because everyone was caught on the mountain. So as it pulled up and over, this right side is super, super free. That's why they get it for free. You can't really, like, add that to your gameplay, but it's a good, like, understanding of why this space in particular was so open. So this is we have to try and win the gameplay. So they first try and bird up. They look to see if they can get height. Height like just spams out cones. They're like, up, it's not the play. We're not getting it. And so then they commit to go from height to go down. I'm actually gonna swap to Kraez here because Kraez does some absolutely insane stuff here. First, good lord, the bird is broken. Good lord. Kraez accidentally drops his gold cape here because he has auto weapon pickup. Doesn't recognize it, bit unfortunate. Maybe he could have clutched up a little harder. Tries to get up here with 0 builds, can't. Hits, I don't know how he hits that, but hits an absolute crazy shot to Envy Tyler. At some point, it's better to be good than anything. And so he hits that shot. Bugha then capes back. He's going to play his 2 medkits. And so yeah, this is how they were able to do so well while being a duo from so early on. So much of it comes from those first like 6-7-ish minutes of the game that set up the rest of the game. Really trying to hone in on your control of space, guys. Really try and just hone in on these like little things that make the biggest difference when it comes to the final couple of zones. I hope you guys learned a bit. If you made it through this entire video, drop a comment, drop a like. It helps the video do well. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell, and follow me on Twitter, PeanutBrainTS.